Welcome, Lee here from Play Guitar Academy with a viewer request video from Miguel. Miguel said, can you make one on how to build chords from the same bass shape using intervals? Thank you. I thought what a great question that is, and what a great skill to have. If you can do this, you don't need chord charts anymore. You will forever be able to make your own chords whenever you need them. So we'll get started with that. But before we do, if you struggle with playing chords cleanly, you get the clicks and pops, and everything suffers, we're going to end that today. I have a free gift for you. It's called My Guide to Clear Sounding Chords. It's over at playguitaracademy.com/clear-chords, or just click the link in the description below. Okay, let's get started with the chords. Okay, this is an easy one. Here's how it's going to work. I'm going to start with an A chord, the one on the top 4 strings up at the 5th fret. This is our bass chord, and I'm going to show you how to change it into all of the other chords. I know, but if you know the notes in the chord and you know what interval they represent to this A chord, it's going to be pretty easy, and I'll talk you through that there. We're just going to need one tool to make this happen, and that is the A major scale. So let's take a look at that. So the A major scale, if we see here, we have A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. The reason we have those notes is because of the formula whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That tells us we have a C sharp, an F sharp, and a G sharp in this scale pattern. What I did was I put numbers on the top of each of the notes. A1, B2, C sharp 3, D4, E5, F sharp 6, and G sharp 7. We start over at 8, or 1 for A there. And notice I've circled the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th. These are the notes for our A major triad. How we get them is we just jump every other note. This creates an interval, a distance between two notes. The distance between the first note and the 3rd note in the scale is a major 3rd. So let's take a look at the chords here. We're going to start off with this A major triad that we just built from the scale, the root, the major 3rd, the 5th, and then a double of the root, A, C sharp, E, and then A. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a minor triad. Now, a minor triad has these intervals: root, flat 3, 5, root. The only difference between major and minor is we take that C sharp here, the 6th fret, we're going to lower it down to the 5th fret so we can bar across the top 3 strings. And it sounds like this. As sad as you can get. So with the major 3rd, as happy as we can get. As we lower that down 1, as sad as you can get. I always thought that was very powerful, how one note can completely change the way a chord feels to us. So those are the two of the main triads that you'll use probably 99% of the times, major and minor. But we do have 2 more. We have augmented and diminished. Let's take a look at our augmented triad. Root, major 3rd, sharp 5, augmented 5, raised 5. We take the E and raise it up 1, and then a double of our root again. So if we raise that 5th up from our major triad, very different sound, almost sounds like it's floating. So here's major, here's minor, and now here's augmented. All in the same place, all by just changing one note to get a very different sound. Now finally, we have something called a diminished triad. With this, we've used almost all of our options of changing these notes except for the flat 5. So here we're going to lower the 3rd. So that goes from C sharp to C. And then we're going to lower the 5th, which goes from E to E flat. So we have this sound: root, flat 3rd, flat 5. Very different. With this one, we can put another root up on top, but it's very difficult to form this chord. So what we could do is just use this shape at the top, the kind of D7 looking shape, and use our open A string to fill it out a little bit there. But this is our diminished triad. You notice it's a tense sound. So we went from major, which is happy, minor, which is sad, augmented, which is kind of floating sound, and diminished, which is tense. Those are all of the different sounds we have for triads. So for those of us who've been playing guitar for a while, or even just listening to music for a while, you know that those aren't the only 4 sounds that we hear. We have a whole other type of chord. This is called the 7th chord. What makes a chord a 7th chord? Well, let's take a look at our A major scale here again. For the triad, we jumped from the 1st to the 3rd to the 5th. That is our 3-note chord, hence the name triad. But now we have something else. Now we're going to jump again. This gives us a 4-note chord here, a chord that has the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. The reason it's called a 7th chord is because the note that we put in, that 4th note, is the 7th degree of the scale. So we're going to be doing a lot of different chords using this formula of root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. So the first 7th chord that we're going to use is the major 7th chord. That takes everything directly out of the scale, the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. And how we're going to get that from our regular old A triad is we're going to take one of the A's, the A on the top string. Remember I told you it was going to be very important, and we're going to lower it 1. So now we have an A, a C sharp, an E, and a G sharp. Now it's major, but that 7th has a very distinct quality to it. Here's regular major, and here's major 7th. All I did was lower 1 note, but it was an important note. Our next chord that we're going to play is the minor 7th. Okay, so if we go ahead and start with our A chord, what we have is a root, flat 3, 5, and flat 7. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep one of our roots. I'm going to keep the root on the top here. And we have our 5th is the same too, so we'll keep the 5th. So the top 2 strings are going to stay the same. Our major 3rd is going to be lowered down to our minor 3rd. So we have all 3 of these notes in a row, just like our minor triad. But this is where it's going to be different. This other A that we had here, we're going to lower that 2 frets. So 1 fret, that's our major 7th, another fret, this is called a flat 7th or a dominant 7th. So with the minor 3rd and the flat 7th, that gives us our A minor 7th sound. Well, what about blues? How can we get a bluesy sound out of this regular old A chord just by changing a few of the notes? Blues music uses dominant 7th chords. These are a little bit funkier sounding. They're still major sounding. They have a root, 3rd, and a 5th, but they use that flat 7th along with the major triad here. Let's take a look here. Let's build this chord. So we're going to play our A, regular old A chord. We have the root, the 3rd, and the 5th all the same, but we need to take one of those roots and lower it down 2 frets. I'm going to choose the one on the bottom here. We'll keep the A on the top. We'll keep the E. We'll keep the C sharp, but now we're going to take this A, lower it down 2 frets, and this is our funkier sounding chord for blues music, funk music, rock music. You hear it all over the place. And all we did was take the regular root down and lower it 2 frets. Very cool. So those are the most common of the 7th chords. Those are the ones you're mostly going to run into, but we have a few more and they're easily achieved using the same system. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to make a minor 7 flat 5 chord, a half diminished chord. This is considered the 2 chord in a minor song, or the 7th chord at the 7th degree of a major scale. We're going to be building something like this using the root, the flat 3, the flat 5, and the flat 7. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's start with our A. First thing we'll do is we'll go down to the minor 3rd. So we'll take our C sharp, take it to a C. We're also going to be lowering the 5th degree. That's our root, our flat 5, and flat 3 so far. Now to finish it off, we're going to take where our A was here and lower that 2 frets. So it's going to be right next to all these, right on the 5th fret. This is our minor 7th flat 5, called a half diminished chord. Very cool sound, very tense. And like I said, you'll hear it mostly in minor keys. The final 7th chord that we're going to do today, and this is the most tense out of all of them. This is the A diminished 7th chord. Now we did a diminished chord before. It was a triad. This is different. This is a diminished 7th chord, and you'll hear the difference when I play it here. So let's start off on our A chord again. We're keeping the root. Everything else is changing. We have a flat 3, a flat 5, and a double flat 7. Let's check this out. So let's start from the high string and work our way back. So we have our A. Our E note, we're going to lower that. So we have an E flat there. And then our major third, we're going to lower to a minor third. So we're back to this triangle shape. Looks like a D7 in open position here, right? But now we're going to take our root note that we were using before. So instead of lowering it 2 frets, we're going to lower it 3 frets to make a double flat 7. Now let's listen to what the difference is here. Now this is a very common shape. In fact, you can slide this chord up every 4 frets and get a new inversion of the same chord. It reminds me of those old black and white movies where the guy's tying the lady to the train track and the train is coming and they have this tense sound. So there we go. That's all of our triads and all of our 7th chords just by changing a note or two to this basic A major chord at the 5th fret. But I want to give you a little bit of a bonus. I have a few other chords that would be really beneficial for you to know. They show up a lot in popular music. So let's do a little changes to this chord again and get something interesting. An A add 9 chord. So the add 9 chord is in a lot of different styles of music. And it's something what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those A notes in this chord. I'm going to do the top one here, and we're going to raise it 2 frets. So what I did was I put my pinky down right in front. I'm still barring that 5th fret, but my pinky's in front of it right there. Now I've got an A add 9 sound. But what if we wanted a 9 chord, not add 9, a 9 chord? What that means, if you see an A9, that it's a dominant chord. This is a funky sound with some decoration on top of it too. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our regular old A chord. We'll lower the lower A down 2 frets. So we have our A dominant 7 like we learned before. But now we're going to take the upper A and we're going to raise it 2 frets. Now you notice there's no A in this chord here. Now we've gotten rid of both of the A's. So a couple things you could do. One is you could play the open A string along with this if you wanted to have a nice root note, or you could not play it at all, especially if you're playing along to a backing track or you have other members of your band who are covering that A. You don't have to play it at all. You'll just be playing the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th. So another interesting chord to play from this basic shape is a minor 9 chord. It's just like a minor 7th chord, but has a little bit of decoration to it. Doesn't change the function at all, just sounds a little bit different, a little prettier. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our major triad. We're going to lower the first A down 2 frets to the dominant 7th. We'll lower the 3rd down 1 to the minor 3rd. We'll keep the 5th the same. And now we'll take the A that's on the top string and put our pinky 2 frets up so we grab that 9. And I'll play the open A string as well too, make it sound nice and full. And finally, my last bonus chord for you, this is one you'll be playing all the time, is the A sus4 chord. How can we make an A sus4 chord from our regular old A? To make a suspended 4th chord, we take the major 3rd. In this instance, it's a C sharp, and we raise it 1. So we'll take that C sharp and make it a D, and it's going to sound like this. Suspended chords are great for filling time. Say you have 4 measures of just an A chord. Doesn't change the function. It doesn't change the harmony so much. It adds a little interest to the song, and it's easy. You just raise 1 note higher, and it creates tension to make it want to go back down to the major 3rd and resolve. Pretty interesting stuff. Hey, thanks for playing along today, and thanks to all of our Academy members over at playguitaracademy.com. They are learning these chord diagrams from this episode right now. And don't forget to download my guide to clear sounding chords. It's going to make all of this easier for you. And as always, let me know what you think in the comments. Have a great practice. I will see you next time.